Hello and welcome. I'm Raghav, and in this session we are going to discuss about locators. So we will understand what are locators and how exactly we can create effective locators for our automation testing. This is going to be very easy and very interesting, and by the end of this session you will have good knowledge on locators, how to create the locators, and then you will be able to create locators, or at least when you see the locators, whether they are created manually or created using some recording tool, you will be able to understand what it means, and if you have to fix anything you will be able to do that easily. Okay, so let's get started. So locators are queries that help you to identify the elements or objects on the screen. For example, they can be any element like button, text box, link, radio buttons, check boxes, etc. So let me take an example and show you. Let's say I am going to this website, try testing this. Now here you can see a lot of objects are there. We have text boxes, we have radio buttons, check boxes are here, and so many things are here. Okay, so any of these objects, all these are objects or elements, and if you right click on any of the object and go to inspect, you will see this is the backend of the page, and you can see every object has some properties. For example, this object has a property called ID, then we have a placeholder, we have a name, and with these properties and with these attributes we can identify the object, and then we can do some action on the object. And this is what we use in automation. We use locators using these properties of the object to create locators of these objects, and then we can do any action on those objects. Okay, so let me open my project and let us go to any of the tests, or yeah, let us go to any of these tests. So you can see here, uh, you can see this button has text, accept all, click, all this is a locator to identify that button. And similarly you can go to any of the earlier tests that you have in your project. You can see all these are locators. Okay, but until now we have been using the locators created by either the the code gen tool which we used for recording, or we don't have a, until now we have not had a separate session on locators. So let's learn locators with a demo. So I'm going to create a new class in our project in the tests package called LocatorsDemo.java. So I will go to the tests package and I will do a right click here and create a new class, and I will call it as Locators Demo. And we know what we have to do next is we have to extend from base test. I will say extends base test. You can press control space on your keyboard and it should auto complete or show suggestions, and yes, you can see it has imported base test. And also if I want to go and check base test, I can hover over here and press keyboard control key on my keyboard, and it turns into a link, and I will click, and you can see this is our base test, okay, which is already present in our project. Now step number 2 is I will create a function testAllLocators. You can name it anything, but we have to make it as a testng function. So we will annotate it with the testng annotation @test. So I will say public void testAllLocators, and at the top I will say @test, and if it shows a red line you can hover over it and make sure that you import it from the testng library. We can also press Ctrl plus Shift plus O key on our keyboard to manage all the imports. Alright, so we have got our function created. Now we will first navigate to our website, which is try testing this. So this is the same website. I will copy this and I will say page.navigate, and I will give this URL. Okay, and all this I will I have already added my project on GitHub. and you will find the link in the description of the video. So all this will go there. At any moment, if you want to refer, if you want to copy anything, you can go on my project and you can refer from there. Okay, and I will also keep all these notes in the description of this video. So now we have done this. Let us now create locators for the objects that we need for our test. So let's start with the first name. So here you can see this is our first name. This is our first name text box, and if I do a right click and say inspect, you can see here it is showing me this is what is being, these are the properties of this particular element, and you can see we have ID here. So we can use the ID attribute or the ID property. Okay, so here we can say page.locator. So we have this locator function page.locator. You will see auto suggestion. If you don't see auto suggestion box, you can press Ctrl plus space on your keyboard, and I will just use this. And here we have to give the selector. Okay, so here if you want to use ID, we use the ID by giving a hash symbol. Okay, so the ID is fname here. You can see the ID is fname. I can just copy it from here and say hash. Within quotes I will say hash and give the ID. So this is the locator. This will identify that particular object, and after that the action we have to do is dot fill. We have to fill some value. So I'll give some name. Let's say Tom. All right. So this completes our statement of finding a object and doing action on the object. Of course, here we are not following the page object model principle, because otherwise all these page, all the locators should go in the page of that particular page, the class of that particular page, which we have already learned in the earlier sessions. So I'm not focusing on that now. As of now, we are focusing on how to find elements and how to create locators. Okay, so that page object model part we can do separately later on if you need to. All right, so this is how we can use the ID attribute. Let us go to the next element, which is last name. Here we can use another attribute. Okay, so let us see. This is last name text box. I will do a right click and say inspect, and here you can see we have ID, placeholder, name, the same properties, but here let us say we want to use something different. So we are using the name attribute, and we are also saying that it is of type input and name is this. Okay, so this way also we can use it. So you can say, you can give the type and then you can use any of the property like ID or name, etc. So I'm saying here page.locator, and here I am saying it is of type input and their name equals lname, and then again I will say dot fill whatever value you want to fill. Okay, so you can see this is also a way we can identify using this way as well. Okay, now before going further, let me say page.pause here. So it will pause here, and let me try to run this. Also, if I go to my base test, I am pressing my control key on the keyboard and it turns into a link, and I will go to base test. Here you can see we are already we have set headless mode to false, and it will be running in a slow motion. It will be slowed down by 1 second, so that's fine, so that we can see the execution. I will do a right click and say run as testng test. So just to check if it is working fine until here, and then we will move to the next locator strategies. And you can try hands-on along with me, and you can try different ways. So you will learn more and more about locators and different ways and strategies to create object locators. So yes, you can go, it goes here and says Tom and Jerry, and then it pauses. When we say page.pause, it actually opens the Playwright inspector, and then we have option for recording, or we can also just pick locator. So if I click on this pick locator and I will go to this first name, you can see the locator, it captures is get by role, text box, name, first name. So this is also a way which we will see later, but what we are learning is very simple straightforward locators that we can use directly. Okay, so for now I will just close this. Okay, so this is done. Don't worry about the failures. The failures are because we had added pause and then it could not complete the tear down and all those things, so that's fine. All right, next let us say we have radio buttons here. You can see these are the radio buttons. Okay, let us see the properties. If I inspect the radio buttons, you can see this is what it looks like. It is of type input. This is input, and then type is radio, ID, name, value, properties are here. Okay, we also have these labels, male, female, other, etc. So here we can say, we can just say it is of our input type where value equals male. So we can use like this. I can say page.locator, and I will say type is input where value equals male. Okay, and then what we have to do is the action is dot check. Okay, so we can do like this. So this is what it is using, the value property here. Then the other way of checking a radio button is using the nth element. Okay, so we can say type input, it is of input, and then type we have is radio, which is coming from here. So we have a type property here for radio. Type property is radio. This is what we are using, and then we are saying nth first element. So it starts from 0. So first means the second one, which should refer to this one, which is female. Okay, so let us try this as well. I will say page dot locator, and I'll say here input and type equals radio, and then I will say dot nth. You can see I'm getting auto suggestion as well, and check. Okay, so this is another way. Okay, I will also add these comments using ID attribute, using name attribute, select radio button, using value type and index. Okay, so this is what we can do. Let me just save and run very quickly to check we are able to get the values, select the locators or select the objects and do the action on the locators. So yes, it enters first name, last name, it checks male and then female. So you can see this is working fine. All right, so this is fine until here. Now let's say we have a drop down here. So there is a drop down. Okay, so this is, I think, the drop down. I will say inspect. Okay, so we have ID and name, and then we have all these options. So what we can do here is we have select hash option. So you can see option is the ID here, and this is of type select. So we will say select and hash option, and then we can say which option we want to select. Okay, so let us say page.locator, and I will say select and hash option and dot select option, and here you can see which option. So we have option 1, option 2, option 3, etc. So let us say I will say here I want to go with option 2. All right. So I will save and run. Now see here, it's not one, there's no one specific way. We have a lot of options, a lot of properties are there. We can create locators using all that. And you can see it has selected option 2 here. Okay, so you can try on your own as well, and you can see different ways of creating locators for the same object. So yes, let's say I go to this first name, and you can try selecting creating a locator using maybe type and then maybe id, then name. You can also use xpath. So you can see if I select this, if I do a right click and say inspect, it highlights this area which is for this particular object, and then when I right click here and I say copy, I get options to copy XPath, copy full XPath, copy JS path, copy selector. So you can also try out these on your own, and you can learn all this, and always let me know if you face any issues. Okay, so we can also just directly say hash option, and then we can select the options like this. Okay, then let us go to the check boxes here. So we have the check boxes here. Okay, now see here, if I do a right click and say inspect, so here you can see here also we have these check boxes, and then we have name option 1, option 2, and id is m option. So let us say what I can do here is I can say input type checkbox, and then I can say value, what value I want to use, or I can directly also use the id. So let us try this one. This was drop down, then I have checkboxes page.locator, and here I will say input, and I will say type equals checkbox. So this is coming from here, type is checkbox. Okay, and then we can further add more filters. So like this we can say type is checkbox and then value is this. Okay, so I can say this in a separate square bracket. I can say value equals and whatever value I want. So you can see we have option 1, option 2, option 3. So let us say I want to copy this option 3. So I will say this is what I want and dot whatever action you want to take. Okay, so you can try like this as well. I will save and run. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so it has selected option 3 here. All right, so this is also one of the ways to create locators. We can add multiple properties. So this can be very handy. So suppose just by using one property does not find a unique locator or does not find a unique object, there may be other objects having the same type. So then we can also add more attributes and find a unique one. We can also try like this input, then we can give the name, and if we find a unique element or object using this, then it's enough. We can then just do our action on that. Okay, and we can also say get by label option 1 and then do the action. So label is, you can see this is the label. Okay, so option 2, option 1, option 3, these are the labels. So we can also use get by label. So let us say I will say page dot locator, and I will say here no, I will have to just say page dot get by label and then give the pattern here. I'll say option 1 and dot whatever I want to do, I will do like this. Okay, then you can select checkboxes using name. So we can say we have already seen this. Like this is, I think, the same like this one. So this we can do page.locator, then input, we can give the name attribute and then say check. So this we have seen. Okay, now XPath is also there. If we want, we can use XPaths. However, if you have some other better ways, if you have some attributes like ID, etc., and you can find unique locators using those attributes, you can go with that and avoid using XPaths because it takes some time. So I can say, let's say we have this date here. Okay, so if you inspect this one, you will see this is our date. Okay, and if I say copy XPath and let me see, or I go here and I say copy XPath, so you can see this is how it comes out. But what we can do is we can use the input type and then we can say at type date. So I will say here, you can see this one, it is of type input and type is date. Okay, so I can say here page dot locator and I will say input, and then in square brackets I will say at type equals date, and then I will say here dot fill. So you can then give your date in the format that it allows. So I can say 2025 and let's say 07 and 15. So they should select this date on the calendar. So let's save and run. So it opens the browser and it is adding all this. And you can see it has selected the date here. Okay, so this is also working fine. Okay, and see, in the earlier session we have already seen how do we use recorder, how we use code gen and playwright inspector. So you can also do recording, but then if you don't get good locators using recording, you always have this option to create your locators. Okay, so then you can also say get by text. So I can say page dot get by text, and whatever text you can see you can give it here. Let us say this is click me and dot click. Okay, so let's say there is a button which has the name click me, you can also use get by text there. All right, and then let's say let's see this button at that end. You will see this submit button. I will do a right click and say inspect, and here you can see this has a class, then on click. So all this is here and the value text is submit. I can say here page dot get by role, and here we say area role button, new page get by role options, and then set name button dot click. And this is something if I show you, let me just run this, and I am already using page.pause so that it will bring up the playwright inspector. So I will show you once we have the inspector there. Okay, that click me used clicked on this one. So okay, now we have this playwright inspector. I will go to this pick locator and use this one, and you can see it is using get by role button name submit. So I can actually use this as well or I can use like this complete thing. I will say here, I will try using this. I will say page dot get by role, and I will say here, okay, I have to use it like this. Okay, or I can try just for checking. I will say record, and I will click here, and this will get recorded. And I will say, you can see this is what it has recorded. I'll copy this and paste it here. So you can see this is how it is used. Okay, I will have to import this from Playwright and page also from Playwright. Okay, so we have this option as well. I will now save and run again. So it opens the browser and doing all the finding all these objects and doing all the actions as we have scripted. And yes, it clicked on that submit button and went here, and you can see all this is running fine. Okay, so these are the different strategies, and here some do's and don'ts. If you have the id name value properties or attributes, you can use them. Okay, you can use get by text for buttons, you can use get by role for accessibility. So whenever you see these kind of things, you can try these. And the locators, you can always see the id name value are generally safe locators to use or safe properties to use. But still, if you have access to your dev team, you can talk with them and ask them what are the stable locators, and either they can also guide you with that. But then avoid auto generated classes, because these can change and then your locators can break. Also avoid absolute XPaths, these can also break. And then don't hard code index unless it is very stable. Okay, so you can see here we had hard coded a index value. Here you can see nth one index. So in case it is stable and always will be this, then it's fine. Otherwise, if it can change, you should not use these and should not hard code these. Okay, so these are some ways. There are a lot of ways, there are a lot of locators. You can keep on trying, and whenever you face any issues, you can let me know. I hope this was useful. I will see you soon. Thank you for watching, and never stop learning.